Hello and welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax
FAIRtax
Guys. And again, we would like to open this episode by inviting you to visit our Facebook page and leave us a comment. Because in a couple of weeks, I'm not sure when this particular episode is going to be released out on Spreaker, but it will be before our next FAIRtax Facebook Live event on
I can help you with that,
17th.
Bob.
Go.
This episode will air March 31st.
Okay.
Friday morning, March 31st.
All right. And then we will have our Facebook Live on the 17th. So that's a tick over 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
We would like you to join us 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Facebook Live. Now, is this one going to be on our FAIRtax Guys page or the Florida FAIRtax page? I'm not sure where we're going to put this one.
The main FAIRtax page.
We're going to put it on the main National FAIRtax page on Facebook.
They've got a little more exposure.
Yeah, we will have a link on the FAIRtax Guys Facebook page to get you there. So we will get there. And so we are say with the tax deadline just about on us, we want to hear your horror stories.
Yeah.
How long it took you to put your income tax form together. Now, obviously, we don't want you sharing any personal information, but I mean, how much of your personal and financial information, I mean, stuff that most parents don't even share with their kids, the government makes them, report it to them.
Oh, yeah. That's
no good.
There's no privacy when it comes to the IRS.
How much time, how much money, how much effort did it take you to do your taxes this year?
Yeah.
And so,
we call it Facebook Live because it is live and it's interactive.
It is.
I mean, you'll see the two of us on the screen, on the Facebook.
And you never know who else might show up.
Yeah.
Maybe that crazy FAIRtax czar might make another appearance.
That's right. Yep.
Check that out.
It's completely unpredictable.
All right.
So
the FAIRtax Guys at gmail.com is our email address, our FAIRtax Guys Facebook page, and the Facebook Live. But we've been the past couple of episodes here, we've been trying to explain to people how the FAIRtax will make your life simpler and make it easier. We kind of got sidetracked on our last episode because you had that absolutely outrageous story of how the IRS was just browbeating this family, this young girl who had suffered both an automobile accident, and in the process of being treated for that, they discovered cancer on her. She got a lot of donations, and now the IRS is trying to get a pound of flesh from them and saying, that's taxable income. You owe us a bunch of tax money.
I think we could consider it extortion.
Yeah, just about. But I'm going to try to go back more to our original mission this time and tell people why the FAIRtax is going to make your life better. Now, I know a lot of people, I know you and I fall into this category, senior citizens who are getting our Social Security.
That is us.
You keep hearing time and time again about how Social Security is going to be going broke in the next 10, 15 years maybe. And if we don't fix it, then, it's going to go away. But nobody wants to fix it because that's, not politically expedient to either cut benefits or raise the retirement age, things that you're going to have to do to save the program. Is just not something that a politician wants his fingerprints on. So they just keep kicking the can down the road. FAIRtax.
But do they really fix it?
No, they don't.
No.
But the FAIRtax solves that problem.
That's right.
It really does. It puts Social Security and Medicare on much stronger financial footing than the current income tax system, because the income tax system really doesn't go to Social Security and Medicare. We should let me clarify that. It's the federal payroll taxes, FICA. If you get a paycheck, you see a little deduction on your paycheck that says FICA. That's Social Security. You get another one that says Medicare. Only people working for wages, working for a paycheck, get those. People who run eBay stores, Uber drivers, people who make their money off the grid, if you will. They are not supporting Social Security and Medicare, but those people continue to buy things, and if we switch the taxation from what you make to what you spend, then everybody that buys things is supporting Social Security and Medicare.
Let me clarify that a little bit. If you're self-employed, you're supposed to pay FICA taxes. You're supposed to pay both ends of it, the employee and the employer. But what's happening is, we talked about before, people are evading this tax system because, all these different ways of earning a living now. Gone are the days which the only way you could earn a living was by going to work for somebody in their factory or whatever. There are lots of choices now. Like Bob said, you can have an online store, you can be an Uber driver. So there's all kinds of ways, and some people are just not reporting all their income.
Wow, and imagine that.
So they're evading not only the income tax, they're evading FICA. They're not supporting Medicare and Social Security. And it's getting worse every day. So how about if we put funding Social Security and Medicare on a more stable basis where everybody in the country supports it? Let's see. How could we do that, Bob?
I think we could expand the tax base from people who work for a paycheck to people who buy things.
Yeah, exactly. If we made taxation, federal taxation, get rid of the income tax and do a federal consumption tax, sales tax, in which a portion of the receipts of that sales tax must go to Medicare and Social Security, then that would be a more sound financial basis for those programs.
And it is written into the FAIRtax legislation, and we will emphasize also that this is actually written up in legislative language. It's there, a bill that has been introduced that can be looked at and messed around with. It's not like this Ryan plan. It's just theoretical right at the moment. The idea is in somebody's head. It's not written down on paper. It's not a legislative proposal. The FAIRtax is, but it is written in the FAIRtax bill that a certain percentage of the revenue generated by the FAIRtax is automatically earmarked for Social Security, and another chunk is automatically earmarked for Medicare. And again, the FAIRtax expands the tax base from people who work for a paycheck to people who buy things, thereby putting Social Security and Medicare on much firmer financial footing, in spite of the fact that some people are running around and noting the fact that since the FAIRtax gets rid of those payroll taxes, they're trying to make the leap and says it gets rid of the programs. Absolutely untrue. Anybody that tells you that is a liar.
Yeah.
I'm telling you a lie right to your face.
Yep. And we've had some people try to tell us that.
Mm-hmm. I had fun messing with one of them one time.
Yeah. So,
of course, I thought Elaine was going to jump out of her skin when that guy said that.
Oh,
that's your wife,
and that was fun. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, my wife gets a little passionate when people lie about the FAIRtax. She just Well, anyways, we're not going to get into that. We haven't heard from that fella in a while, have we?
No, we haven't. He's dropped off the face of the earth. Yeah. But I tell you what. Also, when I get my Social Security, the IRS takes a chunk out of it. It is subject to withholding the same way a paycheck would be.
Yeah.
And the FAIRtax not only puts my Social Security on a firmer financial footing, it gets rid of that withholding.
So
but it gets rid of withholding.
Let me get this straight. We have, right now, when we get paid, like when we were working, when you were and I were employed in in our normal working years, and every paycheck, FICA was taken out to contribute to Social Security and Medicare so that we could be taken care of in our elderly years. And now when we receive a Social Security, there's withholding taken out of it. So,
yeah.
I mean,
federal tax withholding. I don't think they hit us for FICA and Medicare on our Social Security benefits, but they do hit us for federal tax withholding.
Yeah.
And again, I've said this before. That is the most insidious thing that the government has ever perpetrated on the population was this withholding. Because when the government takes theirs out of your paycheck before you even see it, you get so used to looking down at your net amount, you don't even realize what they're taking from you.
Yeah, you get a job.
Ask somebody how much did you pay in taxes. They'll either tell you, well, I didn't pay anything. I'm getting money back. Or they'll tell you how much they had to pay on April the 15th. Or they'll tell you none of your business. But none of them will tell you accurately. Very few will tell you accurately how much federal tax they actually paid. What was taken away from you that you did not get back. Nobody knows.
Counter that with the FAIRtax, in which, it's a consumption tax. And when you go to the store, every time you purchase something, on the receipt will be the price of the item and how much the FAIRtax amounted to. So you will see the FAIRtax that you pay every time you purchase a new product and a service. It will be written on the receipt. It's required. So there's no more of this slinking around. And again, as far as reporting goes, the only thing you have to report under the FAIRtax is the number of people in your household. The people, their names and their Social Security numbers, and that's so you could receive the proper prebate. So the FAIRtax is so much simpler. And as Bob was saying, it does support Social Security and Medicare with a much broader base, that being the entire population of the United States when they purchase stuff. So Social Security is protected. It's simpler. You preserve your privacy. Let's go on with some other
I love the no withholding. I love the idea of bringing home my full gross amount, and I will decide think about it. When you have this withholding system, the government has arbitrarily and forcefully set itself up as your highest spending priority. Your highest spending priority, what you spend your first dime on, is feeding the government, not feeding your family. That is just wrong. And I don't know anybody of any political affiliation or, ideology that thinks the government should be a higher priority than your family, for crying out loud, except that the IRS and the government do. Or the Congress critters who gave us this nasty system thinks that way.
Yeah, and, we've mentioned before in previous episodes, one lady emailed us and said, why don't we hear about this? I think on the part of some of our congressmen, our legislators, they are truly embarrassed to talk about this because, as Bob said, withholding is insidious. It really is. I mean, it's sneaky. It just takes it out of the public eye, and it does put up the government as your highest priority instead of your family. For
it makes it so easy for them to take millions and millions and millions more dollars because it's just a couple of dollars every paycheck. People don't miss it. So they just go ahead and take it.
Yeah, multiply that by 140 million, and it amounts to something. So, I think, and rightfully so, Congress should be embarrassed talking about the laws that they have created, allowing the IRS to be an out-of-control agency, without doing anything about it. Has the IRS commissioner, who's been responsible for a lot of the stonewalling and the poking into the conservative or whoever, the Tea Party people, when they're trying to get 501c3 status, has the IRS commissioner paid any kind of a price for supporting that type of activity? No. No.
But one thing you really need to talk about is you cannot weaponize the IRS. There are some people, I'm sure, that think that the IRS targeting those conservative groups is a great idea because they don't like them. They have a different philosophy. I remind those folks, a lot of them who may not have been living when Richard Nixon was president back in the early 70s, the IRS has been used against the other side as well.
Yeah.
So just because the IRS is targeting somebody you don't like today, oh yeah, great thing. When the power switches and now they're targeting you, then you got a problem. So the idea is that the IRS should not be used as a political weapon by either side against either side, but as long as it exists and as long as it continues to have the tremendous power that it does, the temptation to use it as a weapon against your political enemies by whoever is in power at the time is just too great. And the only way to fix that is to get rid of the IRS, and the only way to get rid of the IRS in its entirety, drive the stake through its heart so it never rears its ugly head again, is to pass the fair tax. Just get away from income taxes and go to a consumption tax like the fair tax.
All right. Yep, absolutely true. Getting back to our theme of how the fair tax helps you. All right. What else we got here, Bob? But we've talked about how simple, fair, and progressive it is.
Yeah,
it's progressive because of the prebate.
The story you told on the last episode about the young lady who is getting dinged with a tax bill because she received a lot of donations for her cancer and her accident treatment. The fair tax gets rid of gift taxes. No gift taxes at all.
Yeah.
And that would help her tremendously. It would help others in her position tremendously. It helps everybody not to have to pay a gift tax or an estate tax.
Yeah, if you want to help your children, your grandchildren in some way, you're capable of doing that, and you want to give them a gift. Let's say you've got somebody going to college, and you want to help them out. Give them a few $100 or something like that. I'm not sure what the level is on the taxation now, but shouldn't even be a concern. You should be able to give gifts to people of any amount and not have any thought about if it's going to be taxed on one end or the other.
That's whether you're receiving a gift or whether you're giving a gift.
Yeah.
A gift will no longer be seen by the IRS as income that it can tax. But also, the only way that the fair tax takes money from you is when you make a retail purchase,
right?
New goods and services. If you give money to your kids, and money that you invest, money that you give to charitable causes, money that you give to your kids, money that you do anything with other than retail purchase of new goods and services, that is not taxed. The tax is collected only when you make a retail purchase of new goods and services, period.
Yeah, because in this current situation, you could be doing something completely innocent, like giving a gift to your grandchildren, like when they're starting college. Or this young lady that we talked about in the last episode who was battling not only serious auto accident injuries, but cancer, and raising money through various charitable donations, to battle her not only fix her injuries, but to battle cancer. And now she's got to worry about this tax bill. All right. That's all gone. That's all gone. I mean, you can give people money and so forth. You can give gifts. You can receive gifts if you're in need of them, and not even care one whit about the tax law, because under the fair tax, it'll have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Like Bob says, the fair tax is simply a consumption tax, and you only pay it when you buy something or you pay for a service, and only when you buy a new product. Okay, there's another advantage.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
no fair tax on used goods.
That's right.
But getting back to this other thing, this young lady, this young lady's case that we were talking about last time. This sounds to me, and I'm just speculating off the top of my head, but this sounds to me like a case where the IRS is going to come in, just bully the fire out of this family, and then a couple of years later realize, oops, I don't have a leg to stand on. Have a nice day. We're gone.
Yeah, after they turn their lives upside down, and this poor
because
gal,
some government bureaucrat wanted to feel powerful.
I'm going to have to try to find that story was a couple years old. I'm going to have to try to find a follow up and see if there's any follow up to this. I've got some relatives in Omaha. I'm going to see if they know anything about this. So,
but another thing I love about the fair tax: no loopholes, no exemptions. You read the fair tax, and there's 133 pages, most of which are references to current tax code that's going to be repealed. It does not take 133 pages to describe the fair tax.
Right.
But there will be no loopholes, no exemptions. The Congress critters will no longer be able to sell influence to the lobbyists, the K Street lobbyists that are seeking to buy preferential tax treatment for their clients. No loopholes, no exemptions. Everyone is treated the same, perfectly fair. As we've talked, the prebate untaxes the poor. It makes it progressive in its application so that those who can afford it pay more, those who can't don't. And nobody gets any loopholes, and that way you don't get your golf clubs as an exception that my bowling balls don't get. We've been beating on that for a little while.
Yeah, that proposal for making certain physical activities, sports activities, considered medical expenses. Come on, give me a break. All right? But that no loopholes goes together with the transparency. The application of the fair tax is very fair and transparent. Like I've said several times, it shows up on your receipt. It shows up in the invoice from the plumber or whatever service you're paying for. It's very simple and it's very fair, and you see what's happening all the time. And you can change your tax bill by changing your spending habits. If it's a young family who's just starting out and just getting by and so forth and doesn't have a lot of income, they can change their spending habits by buying a used car instead of a new car. When it's time to buy a house, you buy a pre-owned house. You buy a used house instead of a brand new one. And those families that are just getting by, this is a huge benefit. All right, they get their whole paycheck, they get the prebate, and they get to buy used stuff and avoid the fair tax legally, absolutely 100% legally. And then as things go along, they get a raise. Whoever's working in the family, both mom and dad, or mom or dad, they get a raise. They go up the ladder and so forth, and they meet with more success and more income. All right, they can choose how to spend. It's totally up to them. All right, if they spend every dime they earn, that's their decision. If they want to put it away for a rainy day, that's their decision. Nobody has anything to say about it. So it's very transparent in the way it's applied, and it's very transparent in the way you treat it also.
All right, let me shift gears here a little bit. The fair tax is the only tax reform proposal that eliminates the IRS because it eliminates the income tax. If there's no income tax, then there's no need for a federal agency to administer and enforce it. It is the only one that eliminates the IRS. Now, even the Paul Ryan plan, and I'm going to lead into something you've got over there. It talks about they don't talk about eliminating the IRS. They talk about turning it into a more customer-friendly organization.
Yeah, right.
How well is that going to work?
Yeah.
Go.
I've got this news article here from USA Today of February, last month. What popular tax breaks are at risk if the GOP overhauls taxes? And I'm just going to read the first sentence of this because this brings out what Bob's talking about. When Republicans say they want to lower taxes and get rid of loopholes to make up for lost revenue, they're talking about eliminating some very popular tax breaks enjoyed by millions of people. I mean, that one seemingly simple system kind of sums up what's going on here. Mm-hmm. You've got a tax system that allows Congress people to play it like a Stradivarius, and they've got loopholes, they've got deductions and so forth. They're constantly working on this. Bob and I have talked about how on Congress.gov you can look up and see all the tax proposals that are being made every day. As of the last episode, there were up to about 350 tax proposals in less than 3 months. So, good heavens, this tells you what you need to know about Congress and taxation. It seems that they are only able to think about the income tax, tax deductions, tax credits, loopholes. And remember, loopholes allow people and companies to keep their own money. And Congress seems to forget that. They seem to totally forget the idea that when they're talking about taxes and deductions and credits and loopholes, they're talking about money that's legally earned by individuals and companies as if they have a right to it before the individuals and the companies do. I mean, that one sentence kind of tells you all you need to know about the frame of mind of many people in Congress. Now, we do have some people in Congress that have signed on to the fair tax. They understand it. They promote it. I'm lucky enough that my congressman is a true supporter, but it's not enough. All right, we need more. And so to do that, we need more individuals. We need more citizens clamoring for it. But it gives you kind of a window into the thought process of people in Congress. Income tax, deductions, loopholes, campaign contributions. It's all rolled into one incestuous ball.
Yeah. Now, talking about an insight into the politicians' thinking, we still want to get to our Congress.gov outrage of the episode here, and I have found one here. HR 960 amends the Internal Revenue Service Code or Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to provide for the tax-exempt financing of certain government-owned buildings. So you pay the tax, we don't.
Oh my word! That's outrageous.
Of
you
course
just found
it
that
is.
on the computer.
I just found it right there on the computer. HR 960. It's got 16 co-sponsors.
Oh, really?
But now they want to provide. Of course, there's not a whole lot of detail here. You just got this summary to provide for the tax-exempt financing of certain government-owned buildings. So if the government owns it, they're not going to tax it. If you own it, they will.
Yeah.
Don't you love it?
Yeah, and remember, we had an episode several months ago called The Tax Code Written by Millionaires for Millionaires. Yes, because keep in mind, 1/2 of the people in Congress, in the House and Senate, are millionaires. 1/2, folks. 1/2 of the people in Congress are millionaires, and they write this tax code to protect what they have.
Well, I remember somebody asking Steve Hayes for some examples of instances where the tax code was written for millionaires, by millionaires, for millionaires, and he just looked back and says the whole doggone thing.
Yeah, that was his answer. He said basically
Steve Hayes, of course, being the president of Americans for Fair Taxation, the national grassroots organization behind the fair tax. Again, a very, very knowledgeable gentleman who's been working for decades to get rid of the income tax. Even before the fair tax was hatched, Steve Hayes was working to get rid of the income tax because he realized, along with our founding fathers, what an absolutely awful idea it is.
And he recognized, at the time that, basically the whole tax code is written for millionaires to avoid taxes, to legally avoid taxes. So, and that leaves the rest of us, having to deal with withholding, paying the government before we support our families, loss of privacy, loss of the Bill of Rights, and so forth. All right. Let's do some positive stuff here.
Yep, because we got about 4 minutes. We got about 4 minutes left here.
Okay. All right. Another thing, and this may be blatantly obvious, but no personal record keeping. Just think of it. Under the fair tax, since it's anonymous and so simple and automatic, you go to the store, you buy something, you've done your duty, you've paid your taxes. Yeah. There's no record keeping. If you want to keep records on how much you spend on going out to dinner and how much you spend on that's up to you, okay? But as far as the government's concerned, you never have to keep records on any of your expenditures or income again. Never. Yeah, the government will have no authority to look into your income or your spending. None. Zero. They're out of your life in that in that respect. Just think of that. I mean, think about having a situation where your income and your expenditures are your business and nobody else's.
None of the government's business. That sounds real. I mean, I ask you, how much did you spend on sales tax buying stuff at Walmart last year? You don't know because you don't care, because you don't have to know. It's not something you have to keep.
Yeah. So that's another advantage. I mean, you might not be able to put a financial figure onto that, but just think of your life in general, all right, and not having to do any record keeping or ever file a tax return. That's what it's like for individuals. Okay. Now, corporations are going to have a little work to do, but their paperwork is going to be reduced by like 80 to 90% also. But individuals, nothing.
But that's only corporations that are involved in retail sales. Wholesalers, no tax there at all.
Yeah. So as individuals, you go to the store, you buy stuff. You have the advantage of when you buy used stuff, there's no fair tax, so you have that advantage. It's automatically done. I mean, there was a guy saying, if you didn't, if the vendor didn't turn in the fair tax to the government was going to come after you. How ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just not going to happen.
So write this all down. No more personal record keeping, because there are no more tax returns to file. No loopholes. Everybody pays their fair share. No withholding. You get the full gross amount of your paycheck. You don't worry about getting a tax refund maybe once a year. You get a tax refund guaranteed every month, and all of that with a fair tax. And why would anybody, again, of any party affiliation or political ideology, not like a simpler system that puts more money in your pocket and puts you in control of what your federal taxes are?
Sounds like a pretty good system,
Sounds like
a
really good system.
So don't keep it a secret.
So we need to get folks to agitate their politicians. I mean, make them uncomfortable if you can. Do you support the fair tax? Well, you get some kind of mealy-mouthed boilerplate political, mishmash. If they don't come out and say, yes, I do, you tell them, what do you love about the income tax that you want to keep it?
Yeah.
But we need people to get on our Congress critters and make them put this through, because they're not going to do it on their own.
And you need to let other people know about FAIRtax Power Radio and the fair tax in general. Okay.
All right. And be sure to tune into our Facebook Live. I really want to do that. That is going to be a good one. If you've got a horror story about how much time, how much effort, how much money it cost you to do your taxes this year, be prepared to, if you like. Of course, we don't want to share personal information. But I want to hear what some of these people have gone through. And this will be on Monday, April 17th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the national Facebook page with a link to it from our FAIRtax Guys page. About
24 hours before the tax returns are due.
Yeah.
That should be interesting.
Check it out. Yeah, that one's going to be fun.
Yeah,
I want to see the FAIRtax czar make another appearance. Now, that guy was cool.
That would be good. Yeah. Okay. We'll see if we can contact him and see if he'll honor us with his presence.
All righty. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank you so much for listening. Be with us every week you can. Share your podcast with your friends and neighbors. Get the free app. And until then, I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
The FAIRtax Guys reminding you that the fair tax is America's big solution for some mighty big problems. And once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
Fair tax is coming. Don't